Thank you. Welcome back.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let me try.
Okay.
Let me try sharing my
Sorry,
screen.
1 second.
No
Lovely
issues.
to keep the participants' mic muted. Whenever Bharti ma'am says ask for the question, at that time you can just give permission for the participants. Okay, otherwise keep all of them muted. Okay, thank you. Yes, Bharti ma'am, it's over to you.
Okay, so tell me what is visible on the screen.
Your presentation is visible.
Okay, it's visible. E-content, the first slide, I
Yes,
hope.
yes, yes. It's
Wonderful.
not in the
Because,
presentation mode, but it is visible.
okay, so if I am putting it in the presentation mode, then let me know. Is it visible?
It's taking time still. It has not yet.
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
It's visible. And
Not in
now,
the presentation mode.
not in presentation mode.
Yeah.
And now, still on the first slide or the second one?
No, it's on the first slide, but not in the presentation mode. It is on the
Okay.
slide mode.
Okay, so that means I'm not able to present the PPT in the presentation mode. So what to do?
No, you like we'll just check it out. You can start the session. We'll work out. Yeah.
Okay, ठीक है. Good. So let me try it one more time to share it. Let's hope it works this time. If not, then we'll have to make go with that. Just a minute. I need some help in PPT sharing.
So a team member is coming to.
Yeah. Somebody is here. It's not coming. Why it's not coming?
So you can share the screen and you can start. I can
Yeah.
help. Welcome.
Yeah. Just give me a second. Just
Yes.
trying to do it. Windows Media Player, no. See, I want to. Here, slideshow now. Can anyone confirm whether it is in slideshare mode now?
No.
Still not there. Okay.
But I
So
can
that
view
means.
your screen.
Is it in the slide share mode?
I don't know.
Not like ma'am. It's a screen
No,
sharing
it is
only.
in the it's in the screen mode only. Dr. Bharti, you can start. No issues.
I think I can
We'll work out.
start and then we
we'll
can
work out.
resolve this issue later on. At
Right,
least
right.
the screen is visible, right?
Yes, it's visible. No issue. The content is visible, so you can start.
Okay. Okay. So as Angel ma'am has introduced me that I'll be taking the session on e-content guidelines, develop e-content for CWSN. So let me just switch off my video. It is going to create a lot of issues. See, it has started creating issues only. I'm really sorry for this. Yeah, video is stopped. Screen sharing is also stopped. No issues. It's not happening. Sure. Let it be like this.
It is on. Just mute the mic. It is on sharing.
Let it be.
It's not visible. You just stop sharing. Sir, anyone can confirm whether it is on the full screen mode?
No,
ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, we
It will
can
not
see
happen.
your screen, I think.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, but still the slide is visible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's do it that way only. And now if I'm changing the slide to second slide, is it visible? Is PME Vidya visible on your screens?
Yes,
Yeah, it
ma'am.
is visible in the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
so let's tolerate this technical glitch for the time being.
Okay.
So technology has both positives and negatives. So let's understand what the topic a little bit before I start elaborating on the topic. It's e-content guidelines and developing content for CWS. And so who are children with special needs? Anybody ready to tell me that? You can write it in your chat box also.
Duff Dumber.
Deaf and dumb. Okay.
Children
Good.
with special needs means children with special
Children
needs.
with special needs. And why do I need to have children with special needs in my regular classrooms, in my regular schools? Because the policy mandates me, right? They are also children first and they also have right to education. So I have to work towards making my classrooms inclusive. Okay. And when I'm saying that my classrooms needs to be inclusive, that means all children are welcome, respected, and they are considered as valuable, equally valuable as children without disabilities. And there are various policy documents that has stated this and that has given directions to make our classrooms inclusive. You are very well aware that PM eVidya has recently launched a program which is encouraging us to make learning accessible as well as online. So what does PM eVidya say? PM eVidya envisions to unify all efforts related to digital, online and on-air education. And why the focus is on digital and online on-air education? Because the initiative started during the pandemic days when face-to-face mode of learning was not available. PM eVidya also envisages development of spatial e-content for students with visual and hearing impairments. Now, the person who can't see, how he or she can access digital content? Anybody, any idea?
Visual impaired children, they have so many softwares are there, madam, for visual impaired children, especially.
What does these softwares do?
Digital content, they can hear.
Yes. So basically,
They
you're talking about
record their
screen.
voice, read
Yeah.
the content, books.
Yes, yes. So basically, you are talking about software that convert text to speech, screen to audio, right? And similarly for hearing impaired students, the students who have hearing impairments, we need to make content accessible for them also. Now you must be wondering, for all those of you who must be wondering how and why to make content accessible for children with hearing impairments. See, if you remember interacting with a small child, how he or she learns language. He or she learns language through listening. And if you if you have experienced engaging with a small child, we keep on talking to a toddler, we keep on talking to an infant, and we enjoy his or her laughter and smiles or responses to whatever sounds we are making. Because we are speaking to them, but that might be understood by them as a sound coming from the environment and they react to that. But a child with hearing impairment, he can see, he can sense, he can touch, but hearing is not there. So the development of language is somewhere hampered. So we have to make our content, teaching learning content, accessible to children with hearing impairment by giving them vocabulary support, language support, or we have to give the e-content in sign language, which is the preferred mode of communication for children who cannot hear properly. And PM eVidya also encourages extensive use of radio, community radio, and podcasts. It also encourages and facilitates QR coded energized digital textbooks for grades 1 to 12 on Diksha portal. You might have gained access to Diksha portal. If not, I'll request you to do so. Then NEP 2020. What does NEP 2020 says about making content accessible? Can someone confirm if slide 3 is visible with the title NEP 2020?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, thank you. So NEP 2020 is National Education Policy, which recently was released in the last year only. It also has special focus on technology education, and not only online and technology based education. It also talks about making technology accessible for all. So what NEP says, it is on one hand encouraging use of technology in education. On the other hand, it is also reinforcing, it is also giving direction to make enhanced access for Divyang students. Who are Divyang students? The CWSN or children with disabilities. And this was mentioned in the introduction to NEP, meaning initial pages. Now, if you flip over the pages of National Education Policy 2020 document, page number towards the last, and point number 23.6 says we have to work towards making accessible software in all major languages so that students living in remote areas as well as students with divyangta, students with disabilities, can also easily access the e-content available in various softwares. And then point number 23.6 again emphasizes that teaching learning e-content will continue to be developed in all regional languages. So language diversity is also recognized in NEP 2020. And who will make the content accessible? Who will work towards accessible e-content? At the center level, NCRT, CIT, CBSE, NIOS, and other bodies and institutions, but at the state level, similar organizations and bodies like SCERT, your state boards of education, your state universities, and your state institute of educational technologies can work towards making accessible e-content. Then NEP 2020 further gives us direction that platforms like Diksha and SWAM will be better integrated across school and higher education. That means we will have a system on Diksha and SWAM, whereas users like you and me can give rating to the application and the software and the web portal, so that whoever is either maintaining or developing or uploading the content on Diksha and Swim can look at the ratings given and work towards betterment of the portal. And all the e-learning existing platforms will also be leveraged for creating virtual labs. That means all the content, say for example, if there is no facility for doing an experiment or a project, then the same thing can be simulated through virtual labs. And the point number 24.4, J point of NEP 2020 also says, while doing all these things, developing e-contents, guidelines for ensuring the standards in the e-contents, ensuring the standard of technology, and to have accessible pedagogy. The guidelines for e-learning will be developed and shared, and these guidelines can be developed at central level, and CIT NCRT has already developed two kinds of guidelines. I'll be sharing them in a few minutes. And these guidelines can also be developed at the local levels by the state board schools and school complexes or higher education institutes. So NEP not only gives us direction, it also talks about the delegation of task also. And then in point 4.4.6, NEP says the schools will work towards development of smart classrooms so that every child sitting in the classrooms can access to the learning, as the learning would be made accessible. Somebody's mic is on. Please mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself.
Participant whose mic is on, please mute yourself.
Thank you. So that was about NEP 2020. Now we have been working towards digital education initiatives even prior to the pandemic era, that is last year, and also as advised by NEP 2020. Prior to that, what are our initiatives towards digital education or accessible education? We had Diksha. Since 2017, Diksha is digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing. Then we also had SWAYAM for senior secondary students and for teachers. Then we had virtual labs, we have NDLI, National Repository of Open Educational Resources, that is NROER, from where you can access the contents already developed and which are already in the public domain. And then, of course, we have ePathshala. I hope all is familiar with ePathshala. Then we have 24 DTH channels, including the channels One Class, One Channel, which is managed by NCERT, and this includes channels which are run by NIOS IGNOU also. Then we have O Labs, just like virtual labs, the NEP has given us directions on, and Nishtha is online teacher training portal. And the acronym might have been familiar because it's since more than a week that you have been with us as trainees. Then we have Mukt Vidya Vahani, NIOS, and Shiksha Vahani, which is CBSE podcast. And the guidelines that I was talking about for making digital e-content or online e-content or accessible e-content, the very first set of guidelines is Pragyata. It's available in soft copy on our NCERT CIT website. Then we also have guidelines for development of e-content for school and teacher education. So both the set of guidelines are available in soft copy in on our CIT NCERT's website, and they also have special mention of some set of advices and principles on how to make e-content accessible. Now here the point is, when I'm talking of making content accessible, how do I do it? Do I plan it at the time of conceptualizing how to make it? Or shall I first make the content and then I'll think about making it accessible later on? Personally, if you'll ask me, I prefer the planning and making the content accessible right from the planning stage, when I'm thinking about which chapter, which class, which textbook or which learning outcome based material I'll be developing. So right at the planning stage, we have to think about the accessibility issues and features. Then what is accessible e-content? An accessible e-content is for a person which has a disability, and it gives the opportunity to persons with disability to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a person without disability in an equally effective and equally integrated manner with substantially equivalent ease of use. Meaning, accessibility needs to ensure persons with disability enjoys access to same information, same interactivity, and same services as a person without disability. And accessible e-content must be able to obtain the information as fully, equally, and independently. That means not only there should be easy access to the information, but PWD should also be able to obtain the information fully, equally, and independently as far as possible. And third characteristics of accessible e-content is Persons with disability should be able to use technology with comparable ease. So, access, ease of use, and independent working. All three needs to be embedded before I can say the content is accessible. And what content we are talking about? We are talking about e-content that refers to the material, teaching learning material that can be delivered over network based electronic devices or that is made available using computer networks such as internet. Then how and what we need to make accessible? We need to make web accessible. That means the websites should be accessible to a person with disability so that he or she can perceive, understand, navigate, interact, and also contribute to the web. How do we contribute to the web? Through social media. Yes, and there are many websites which invite users rating and comments, and the same thing has been advised for educational platforms like Diksha in our NEP 2020. Then we have to make the digital world, meaning technology products, devices and services, usable and comprehensible. And we also have to make material accessible. And what comes under material? There are many things that comes under material. It could be your videos, it could be your audios, and the characteristic should be the persons with disability should be able to navigate, perceive and understand the content, and the content should address the needs of PWD arising due to physical, visual, audio, neurological or cognitive disability. So here we are talking about different kinds of disabilities and to make the content accessible to all disabilities. Now there might be a question that is coming to your mind. What are the various kinds of disabilities that we recognize? And here I would like to share the information that in the year 2016, the Indian Parliament has passed an act called Right of Persons with Disabilities Act. In Hindi, we call it Divyang Jan Adhikar Kanun. And it recognizes 21 different conditions of diseases and disabilities. Prior to this act that Parliament has passed in 2016, we had a Persons with Disabilities Act that recognizes only 7 kinds of disabilities, and that was passed in 1995, PWD Act 1995, which was revised in 2016. So now we have increased the recognized list of disability from 7 to 21. So now if you are thinking that do I need to make content accessible across all 21 disabilities, my answer would be yes. Would it be a difficult task? Maybe it's a challenge, but it's not impossible. And you need not create 21 versions of the same content for the sake of accessibility, because learning needs and needs for accessibility cut across all the disability conditions. So we have to focus on the needs instead of disability labels. But since you all are going to be SRGs, so this information should be with you, how many disability conditions we recognize and what are their learning needs and how to take care of that. We'll be discussing all this in coming 25 to 30 minutes. Then what are the accessible standards? The accessible standards is the content should be perceivable, it should be operable, it should be understandable, it should have some sub-indicators within one above, it should be robust, it should be updated. And the content could be in Unicode also, not could be, should be in Unicode. And Diagram Center has given some guidelines for making the diagram accessible, that how to give accessibility to whatever image is coming on screen by giving its audio description or by having a pre-recorded audio available that describes the picture. Then we have EPUB also. You are familiar with electronic publications. The guidelines or the standards for electronic publication says that it should be arranged in logical reading order. There should be image descriptions. It should include page numbers, and mathematical content should be made available in MathML. Why MathML? MathML is a software that allows easy conversion, machine conversion of text into audio. The content should be interactive as far as possible, and there should be accessibility metadata available. The content is created by who is responsible for the content creation, for which class it is applicable, and which subject, and all other relevant information that makes the content easy to access and search. And DAISY. What is DAISY? DAISY is Digital Accessibility Information System. It is for people with print disability. So who are people with print disability? The persons who cannot see. The persons who cannot see, they cannot read print. That is why we call they are print disabled people, and they need text in audio form. Then we have GIGW, Guidelines for Indian Government Websites, which follows 3 principles. Usability should be there, it should be user-centric, and it should be universally accessible. And GIGW guidelines has 3 categories. First category is advisory, meaning the points mentioned under this category of advisory, they are the first step that you have to do. After completing this, there are mandatory set of points that you need to embed. And then at higher level, there are voluntary set of pointers that you need to embed in the website. Now, the next few slides, I'll be discussing about the various disability conditions and how to make content accessible for all these disability conditions. And for this, the current slide that is visible to you shows IDD. What is IDD? Can someone tell me? What is IDD? Hope I am audible.
Yes, madam.
So what is IDD, sir? So who is going to tell me what is IDD?
Is just like muscular
Intellectual and
dystrophy.
developmental disabilities.
Okay.
Intellectual and developmental disabilities. Am I right?
I'll come back to right and wrong. So can anyone else tell me what would be MD?
Mentally disorder.
Mentally disabled.
Mentally disabled.
Mentally disabled.
Okay. And what about AST?
Autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. Very good. I'm really glad that I'm interacting with a wise and intelligent group who is aware of disability conditions. Yes, sir, you all are right. IDD is intellectual developmental disorders. And ASD is autism spectrum disorder. MD is multiple disabilities. Then we have blood disorders, and then we also have mental illness. Now, the needs for accessibility across this group of disabilities or Divyangta is almost same. So that is why they have been clubbed together. And you know, earlier intellectual developmental disability was known by the term mental retardation. We have been using this term a lot in the past, but recently we have shifted to a better word called IDD, better terminology. It is a little positive as compared to MR, mental retardation. And you know, if you're aware of autism spectrum disorder, can anyone tell me 2 characteristics of ASD so that it is easier to understand their needs?
They are unable to write in proper way, madam.
They are not able to write in proper way. Okay.
Behavior.
Pardon?
The words are not recognized in proper way.
Okay. Who else? Anybody else?
Not able to focus and forget.
They cannot able to remember themselves.
Lack of social
Cannot able to
interaction,
remember
madam.
things.
Lack of eye contact.
Lack of social interaction.
Okay. Good. So a few of you are right and a few pointers are wrong. So autism spectrum disorder, the very first thing we need to understand, it is not a single disability condition, it's a spectrum disorder. So that means the characteristics of this disorder, this divyangta, varies across children and persons. Some children with ASD might have a very sharp memory. Other child may not be able to recall things for a long time. A child with ASD may not be able to focus on whatever you are teaching to him or her, but might be able to tell you facts and dates of anything or any event that he is interested in. So each person or each child with ASD is different. And yes, the generic characteristics across the spectrum disorder, which we call autism, is they lack eye contact while talking, and they have problems and issues in communication and relating to social situations. It's really nice that some of you are able to tell me all these characteristics. Now we have kept.
Why does it happen, ma'am?
There are many reasons that ASD happens. The research is going on to pinpoint the reasons, but whatever we have understood as of now is they are related to some issues in the genes. And it doesn't happen due to bad parenting or due to faulty lifestyles and all. But yes, genetic causes have been identified. And then MD is multiple disabilities when the child has more than one disability. And why we have kept blood disorder under the list of disabilities and what could be their special needs? Children with blood disorders might have thalassemia, they may have other hemophilia also, they may have, yeah, definitely. They require frequent blood transfusion. And that may indicate, sorry about that, and when they have this blood disorder and they have to go for blood transfusion, ultimately as a child who is going to school, they end up losing lot of teaching learning days. Their attendance dwindle, their attendance reduce in the classroom, so they find themselves left behind whatever the teacher has covered in the classes. So they also have some need that we need to cater and give them the content in accessible format. And same is the case with mental illness. RPWD Act has made us aware and sensitive about issues like depression, issues like schizophrenia, and issues like I'm not able to focus, I'm not able to manage my emotions, I'm not able to prioritize things. So these are all related to mental illness. And mental illness is quite different from IDD, intellectual developmental disabilities. In IDD, people and children may have some issues with their intellectual quotient. So this is in nutshell about the major disabilities that we have categorized together. And let's see how to make the content accessible for them and what are the principles that we need to follow. These are simple principles, instructional design that you might have learned in your pre-service teacher training also, and you might be teaching them also. So kindly take it as your refresher. The content should be simplified and we should move from concrete to abstract. This is one of the favorite and the basic principle of all teacher educators. Plan your content from concrete to abstract and move from simple to complex. So the same thing should be followed for this group of children with disabilities. Plan for more and more visual input, but do not clutter. Meaning, you can have collage of pictures, but each picture should stand out. So visual input is required. The instruction should be simple and direct. And how to make instruction simple and direct? Ask the child, say for example, as a teacher, what I do usually. Close your tiffin, take out your mathematics textbook. We'll start with phenomena, chapter and question. Can I break this instruction into a number of steps? If yes, that will help a lot with this group of children with disabilities. And all these principles needs to be followed when we are thinking of making content accessible. And we can have provision for checking retention of what is learned. What does this mean? Do you remember? Yes.
Madam.
Yes, sir.
Word has been changed. Instead of
I'm not able to hear you properly. Somebody else's mic is on.
Madam.
Tell me.
The word disability has been changed, madam.
So now what are we using?
Physically challenged students.
Physically challenged students. Okay, from
Yes,
which
madam.
government, from which policy document you are telling me this?
Physically challenged, no need for eContent separately.
Acha, for physically challenged, we don't need to have e-content separately. Tell me here in this group of disability, have I mentioned physically challenged? Sir, is it mentioned?
No, ma'am.
So I'm talking about this specific group, which has intellectual disability, developmental disability, autism, multiple disabilities, blood disorder, and mental illness. I'm focusing my talk on this group of students. I'm not talking about physical disabilities at the moment. But though physical or locomotor disability is also a very prominent condition recognized in RPWD Act 2016. Thank you, sir, for this intervention. And for everyone's kind information, the term disability is still in use along with Divyangata. It is in use in the policy and acts also. And when we are developing e-content and we are attempting to make it accessible, we need to think whether we are using simple and direct instruction or not. Or do we have provision for checking retention of what is learned? Now, do you remember writing an essay and making small pointers that these points should come in the essay that I'm writing? So what are we doing when we are making these pointers? We are reminding ourselves to focus my attention on these points while developing an essay or a long answer. Similar kind of provision we have to give to the children when we are making e-content for this group of diseases and disabilities. Then we have to make the content available in multiple modes, different modes, meaning audio, video, and interactivity should also be there. And yes, now I'm coming to motor coordination. Suppose physical disability. I can't work with my hands. So what do? I have to think of solutions which allows me to maybe use the mouse through my mouth. There are many such technology solutions are available. So we cannot say that we need not make content accessible for children or persons with physical disabilities. And if you have noticed, so far I have very cautiously and consciously used the words which has student or person first terminology. I'm not saying autistic child. I'm saying child with autism. I'm not saying physically disabled child. I'm saying child and student with physical disabilities. So the terms we are using reflects a lot about our attitude towards a particular thing. When I'm using child and person's first terminology, that shows that I respect the child first. I recognize the child and person first, and later on his or her disability or Divyangta. So, next is we have to make the learning experience interesting, use variety of activities. Do you remember giving medicine we give them? If it's, especially if it's a bitter medicine, then we have to mask it. We either put it in a juice or we may be giving it in a guise of an ice cream or adding ice cream or some sweets to it, right? Similarly, learning experiences needs to be made interesting, and for this we have to think beyond a limited boundary. We have to think beyond textbook, beyond the routine set of activities. And your screen, your interactivity with the system need not be cluttered. The content layout should be elegant. It should have visuals, it should have audio, it should have text also, but in a very balanced manner. Say for example, we shouldn't have too many columns, and we shouldn't give too many options or too many interactivity on a single page, right? Because we are talking about making content accessible to persons and children who already have some kind of disability. And what kind of disability? Related to cognition mostly. Then we should avoid pull down or multi-layered menu structure. Why? Because a child with intellectual development disability have some issue related to IQ, intellectual quotient. And if there is a menu, say for example, when you are working with PPT or when you are working in Word document, we have lots of pull down menus for maybe review, for animation in PPT, and for changing the font and all. So they may act as distractor because the content is hidden. Then we should use pictographic navigation elements, जैसे buttons, text captions, appropriate color codes and contrast. You know why children are addicted to games? And nobody needs to teach them how to play a game, because games are self-explanatory with lot of pictographics and lot of ease of navigation, like they have good visible buttons with good size and color contrast. They have text captions that provide easy instructions. So we have to may think on similar lines while making our content accessible. This is what the next point also says: facilitate navigation between activity sections. Say for example, back, next, pause, home, exit, etc. And provide navigation options through keyboard, through screen readers, or through other input devices. There are many features that I am looking for in an accessible text for this category of persons and children with disabilities. And many of these, the features that I am discussing now for this category of children with disabilities, they are useful for other categories, for children belonging to other categories of disabilities also. So we should have some tolerance for errors or unintentional movement. Sometimes it happens. We might accidentally hit the button next. So there should be an option that I can go back easily to the previous page. So this kind of tolerance, this kind of easy navigation should be inbuilt. Then there is WCAG guidelines that tells me that screen size needs to be 44 by 44 pixels. Why this particular size? It gives ease of interactivity for children with motor difficulties. You know, the persons with Parkinson's have difficulty in controlling the tremors in their hands and limbs. So for them also, this kind of adherence to target size and screen size will give them some help. And this will also help the persons who have difficulty in eye-hand coordination. And the e-content should have easy hints and tool tips, if possible, in pictographic representation. And we should reduce unnecessary motion elements. There might be some characters on the screen that we have put in just for beautification. Say, for example, in this slide also, the green borders are just there because it's look good, maybe for aesthetic reasons. But if we are talking about making content accessible, our focus should be on the accessibility features. The language should be simple and unambiguous. And multimodal, so we have talked about. The same group continues. If we have a large amount of content, it should be broken up into small parts. So this is called step-by-step sequencing, right? And this is also we have learned during our pre-service teacher training as one of the basic principles of instructional design. Then we need to adhere to content accessibility compliance. We can use animation, images, and pictures for better relativity and learning, but it should not be done in excess. Then there should be interactivity will feature again and again. But here I'm talking about interactivity, use interactive engagements for confirmations, for reassurances, and for motivation elements. Remember, in the beginning of this session, I was having some issue with the PPTs, and I was asking you what is visible on your screen. So what I was doing, I was seeking confirmation and reassurance that you are able to see the content that I'm intending to show you. So that kind of interactive engagement should be there in our accessible content. And sometimes it happens, we create greater excitement. Come on, let's play the game, let's do this, let's do that. If that happens, that might be good for motivation, but we need to ensure that this kind of excitement shouldn't lose the focus on the learning outcome. And we should enable profiling of individual users' requirement, meaning if as a user I need to change the color contrast, I should be given the freedom to do that. If you are using Google Maps for navigation, then recently Google has allowed change of icon. You can choose the option from the available vehicle shape and size. So what is that? Individual profiling based on the needs and likings. So if we are able to embed this feature, well and good. And giving the feature of color contrast, changing the shape and size of the fonts makes things easy and accessible for children with visual issues and also ASD, mental illness also. Then there is an example. This slide is showing you eSadhya is an adaptable and accessible learning framework which is field tested, and it was developed by National Institute of Education for Persons with Intellectual Disability. The website web link is also given, and it is easily accessible through their NIPID's website also. It is available in English, Hindi, Kannada, and Telugu. And it contains functional assessment checklist also, It has Indian Scale for Assessment of Autism. It has GLAD also, which is used for learning the assessment for children with dyslexia, dysgraphia, learning disabilities. And it also provides interactivity, auto generation of reports, as well as student monitoring. NIPID also worked on computer assisted instruction package. So these are examples from the Indian context. Another key feature, at least, that I will personally insist on is keyword or descriptor search. Say, for example, as a teacher, I am teaching digestive system to a class. While teaching digestive system, I might be using the terms like esophagus, intestine, enzyme, digestion, and so on. Or in geometry, I might be talking about angles, different kind of angles. Or while teaching geometry, geography, I might be talking about volcano eruptions, lava, ashes, and so on. So each curricular area has a vocabulary of its own that the teacher tend to use again and again. If we have this feature of keyword search or descriptor search, that will make the content easy to understand for children who belong to this group of disability condition. And it will also help children who may not have any disability, but they may have some educational backlog for whatever may be the reason. That is why in every session, when I have the opportunity to interact with people like you, I always say, when we are working for children with disabilities, we are making life easy for everyone. That is why inclusive education is good education. And we should work towards, because it takes care of individual needs. Now, there are some concerns that cut across disabilities. So these are like descriptor search also is one of the cutting across concern. Another is we can think of layout change options. We can think of line focused reading, line by line reading. We can have syllables aided for those with learning difficulties. And there is a web link, web address given in the next point, next bullet, which has worksheets and online activities. So you can use this link. Then we can have an option for accessible settings that provides for various kind of usage of various kind of mouse usage. There are Thank you. Please mute yourself. There are various mouse settings available. Some of them allow us to bring my cursor to a particular point and change the color, shape, highlighters. And I can also change the keyboard settings. We can have magnifiers and we can have joysticks also. Then we can have accessibility settings in mobile devices for visual, hearing, and input access difficulties for all those persons who are facing these difficulties. On-screen keyboards you might have used while doing the banking deals or financial transactions. Spelling and grammar support applications, if we are able to inbuild, then it will help children with all kind of disabilities, disease, and also children who doesn't have these disability and disease conditions. I hope you all are with me so far and listening patiently. Then there are here some examples of websites where the accessible content you can have and feel and engage with accessible content. There is a website called Face Social Skills Software. You know, children with autism spectrum disability disorder, they have problem in reading the facial gestures and understanding Half the time when we are interacting with each other in any social situation, we tend to observe the bodily gestures and face expressions. Children with autism spectrum disorders and persons with ASD are not able to do that. Say, for example, if you are approaching a shop and you find few people already there on the shop and you are in a hurry, not in a mood to wait, then you know how to attract the attention of the shopkeeper without anybody teaching you that, right? But a child with ASD doesn't know that. A child with ASD doesn't know that when talking to a teacher, my voice should be a little soft, my expression should be respectful. And if I'm talking to my friend, then talking to a friend is different from talking to a teacher. A child with ASD is not able to understand these differences. So, this website may be able to help him or her. Then, visual schedules, time alert mechanisms, they can all help children with ID, children with ASD, children with mental illness. Now, you must be thinking, what are visual schedulers? Do you remember the class timetable that we have in our classes? It has everything written in text. English is ENGLISH, mathematics is MATHE. So we can replace them or we can have supporting visuals there. What are these visuals? For English, you can have alphabets. For mathematics, you can have numbers. And for Hindi, you can have again Varnmala. And for other languages also, we can think of that. Lunchtime can be indicated through plates and spoons. So these minor alterations will make the life easier for persons and students with disability. Then we can do the color coding also. And you'll be surprised if you're not aware that the keyboards that we are using on our laptops, they are also color coded keyboards are available for easy navigation. And these color coded keyboards usually have numbers in one color and they can have alphabets divided into different color combinations. A lot of research has gone into this. Okay, let me skip this because it is talking about screen readers, speech to text softwares, eye gauge based switches, joysticks, foot pedal mouse, camera mouse, sip and puff mouse, refreshable braille display and note taker. It is also talking about EVA mouse app for ASD and locomotor disabilities. So sign language interpretation and closed captioning. You can do one experiment even now. On the screen, you have option for captioning. If you click it on, whatever I am speaking will be available in text. But the correctness of it will depend on my pronunciation and the machine's understanding. The next group of disability and disease condition is SLD. What is SLD? Dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia. Who will be able to tell me the name of the movie that has made all of us aware about the difficulties?
Tare Zameen Par.
Yeah, that was very quick. Thank you, ma'am. That was very quick. But whatever condition that has been shown in Tare Zameen Par, that is on higher end, very severe end. Okay, so I agree. Children with disabilities, these specific learning disabilities, and dyslexia comes, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia. All these four categories are sub-part of SLD. Dyslexia is related to verbal aspect of language. Dysgraphia is related as written aspect. Dyscalculia is related to mathematics and dyspraxia is related to eye-hand coordination between various motor movements. So how can we make content accessible for SLD? We can give audiobooks. This will help not dyslexia but dysgraphia, children with dysgraphia and dyspraxia. And we can have read along activities. We can give them audio and visual story starters, cues. Remember making stories, looking at the pictures, begin the story with the picture and end the story with whatever the picture is saying. That helps a lot children with learning disabilities. Spell check, word building, crossword games. Crossword games done, developing personal word list. So these two pointers should be the same. Reading windows with timed opening. Timed opening means you time whatever the child is reading. You have to time it, and once the time is up, the reading screen is closed. Speech to text tools and reverse also. Text to speech tools also. Phonetics, fill in the blanks, all these small things that as a teacher we keep on using in the classroom when we are dealing with children. And as a teacher educator, these are the activities at least I would like to see in the lesson plans of my students. So I can encourage my students to have lots of handouts for which are encouraging children for fill in the blanks, and the similar kind of activities I can also design while thinking and planning of making the content accessible. I can go for rhyming words. I can look at a feature that allows me to track words on the screen. Then
कौन खाते हैं कौन बिस्किट खाते हैं जैसे अब पिटी पिटी करेगा.
please mute yourself. Your daughter is adorable. The voice is melodious. What else we can do for SLD? We can have audio and visual, of course, this we have discussed earlier. Sequencing events from a jumbled word. That can be done. And children with dysgraphia, they find it very difficult to sequence their ideas. They make lot of mistakes in grammar. So we can have grammar check, spell check. We can give them mnemonics to retain information for a longer time. We can give them sentence alternatives. How many of us have done if we don't remember the spelling of a particular word? So what do? We replace the word. At least I do this a lot. So we can have sentence alternatives also. Then we can have math game based in real life experiences, time and money based games. Then we can have related to mathematics, basic operations game, just like we do mental mathematics. So we can have that kind of format for mathematics, basic learning, basic operations learning and retention, and for practice also. You remember when TV production and TV serials were becoming popular, there were little advertisements coming, and those early eras of advertisement, from that early era of advertisement, we may be remembering few jingles. So if we are able to provide the content, the curricular content in rhymes and poems and songs, the chances are children with learning disabilities may not only be able to enjoy the efforts, they will also be able to retain the information for a longer time. Then we can use highlights, and we can add some interesting facts that are not available in the book. And the most important thing here is having short version of the content, lesson and summaries, either in point or para-wise. Then, of course, you have to think about giving them option to change the background form, size, and color of the font, position of the content on the screen, add visuals that will make the content interesting. I have been repeating this again and again. Mnemonics will appear for all the disabilities, and we have to think of multisensory experiences. And multisensory means we have to think about UDL principles, universal design for learning. And for blindness and low vision, what we need to do, as somebody in the beginning said, text to speech, audio should be there. Yes, very much it should be there. In a while, I'll be showing you a visual from one of our textbooks, and I'll be asking you to convert this into audio, and let me see how many of us are able to do that. If you have seen NCRT's textbooks, there are many places, many pages in our textbook where the numbering may not be there. And when we are converting audio version of these printed books, then we have to give number from our side. So while planning accessible content, you have to be very careful about numbering the options, numbering the questions, numbering the exercises, numbering the pages, and maybe numbering the paragraphs also. That makes it easier for students with blindness and low vision to retain and access and engage with the information easily. And if there is a picture, then we can have alternate text description. That exercise we'll be doing in a while. MathML, I have already talked about. Geometry picture we can have. Okay, now if this is favorite of biology teachers or the science teachers, and for that matter, the SST teachers also. In fact, mathematics also. So all the subjects, we ask students to label a particular diagram. Now, if a child is not able to see the diagram, how he or she is going to label? Either you provide the diagram in tactile format, raised format, or you have to give alternate questions. Say, for example, instead of labeling the parts of human heart, the alternative question could be state and describe the location of the parts of the human heart. Simple. So we can replace that also. Multisensory activity, enough talk has been done. Now on the screen, can you see three written and picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now what you need to do? Sir and madam, mute yourself, please.
I request the participant to please unmute yourself.
Unmute me, mute yourself. Okay,
Sorry,
thank you. So now what we need to do is, this is a request to all the participants. Look at the page that is visible on your screen, and I'm giving you, let's say 1 minute, 60 seconds, just 1 minute. Can you describe this page in your own words? Start writing in the chat window. And remember, you have to create audio version of this page. Now the team who is moderating from NCRT side, you can keep the timer.
Okay, ma'am.
So how much time is left?
Ma'am, we are left with 15 more minutes.
Seconds.
And the session is supposed to be complete by ma'am, you're
3:30.
talking about this session.
I was talking about the activity time that I have given to the participants. Okay, no issues. I'll be finishing in 5 minutes, further 5 minutes. Okay, Vichitra, let's get back to the participants. Yes, so who is going to share the audio description of the page I showed a few minutes back? Okay. Concepts of words bigger and smaller as well as comparison. Very good. But sir, if you are going to tell this about this page to a student with visual impairment or blindness, they'll not be able to do anything. Another person is saying comparison. No. So how are we going to make that page accessible to persons with blindness?
Audio has to be added, madam.
So this is what I'm asking. What kind of audio? You need to give me the audio that needs to be added.
Hippo is huge.
Hippo is huge. Okay. But if you're telling hippo is huge, that means you're telling them the answer. No?
We have to give the tie of hippo and as well as a squirrel.
How?
Some
Sir,
dimension,
how?
some dimension is to
How?
be given to the
Again
sound,
and
madam.
again
Toys.
I'm asking how?
Audio along with toys, madam. Big hippo and a
Toys.
small squirrel.
Sir, I'm talking about making this content accessible to students with blindness. How can I give toy?
They will compare the size now, madam.
Yeah, definitely if I'm teaching in a face-to-face mode.
In a descriptive way, ma'am.
So describe it, ma'am. How do I describe the page?
Okay, the left side leaf is bigger than the right one. This leaf is smaller.
Won't you be giving answers if you are saying left side leaf is bigger than the right side one?
Ma'am, I think we have to emboss the pictures and give them, ma'am.
Okay,
But
that would again
Madam,
be in a face-to-face mode. Child should what?
Child should touch the objects, which one is bigger and which one is smaller. He has to compare, and he should say that it one is.
But sir, the principle of UDL and the principle of inclusion tells me that I have to make the textbook accessible to everyone. And if I have a child with blindness in my class who cannot see, how can I make this content available maybe during pandemic days? As a teacher educator.
Ma'am, we can give this some instructions such as you just take touch your hand and then your small fingers. Then we can say that the hand is bigger compared to your finger. Like that way, we can give another examples to touch some commodities, and through that sensory organs, we can give them the idea about bigger and smaller.
That's okay. That's perfectly okay. But principle of inclusive education tells me I have to make this page accessible to students who cannot see. How do I do that? Okay, let me help you. You know, this page has how many pictures? 1, 2, 3, 4. So can I begin with this? This particular page, page 3, as I have mentioned on the slide, page 3 is divided into 4 sections. Each section has picture. Each picture has 2 parts, right? If I'm doing it like this, is it creating a visual image?
Please
share your screen.
I have purposely stopped sharing the screen because I wanted to interact with you all.
Thank you. Sorry.
No issues. No need to say sorry. But I showed you the picture for more than a minute. And this picture is taken from one of our NCRT textbooks for class 1, mathematics, math magic. So how do I make it accessible? Okay, see the picture again. Is it visible now?
No, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
So listen how I am describing it. I'm describing it like this page is divided into 4 parts. Each part has a picture. Each picture has 2 animals, leaves, or 2 persons. Let's start listening to each picture. Picture 1 shows 2 animals, a hippopotamus and a dog. A hippopotamus is an animal that lives in damp areas near water, in the rivers, and it speaks like this. So if you have option of showing or making the students feel hippo's voice, you can add it there. And dog is an animal that is found maybe around our houses, and dog speaks like this. Why I have to add all these things? You know why? Because maximum information we gain through our eyes, and persons and students who are blind, they may not have seen a squirrel also. So they might have heard a squirrel's voice. So by describing this page, it's not an easy task. That is why I purposely added this activity here. So you need to think on very minute aspects also. It's very easy for me to say, sitting on the other side of the table, that yes, provide alternative audio description to the picture so that the visuals can be made accessible. But what kind of audio description needs to be added? We have to think very cautiously, very consciously about it. Right? And if I have a child with hearing impairment in my classroom, what do I need to do? Very quickly, any one of you.
Madam.
Visuals, by visuals we can show.
Madam.
Yes, sir.
As regarding visual impairment as concerned, instead of giving that which was with that animal which is unknown to the child, we can give the familiar animal, no, madam?
Of course, we can do that.
It is very easy for the child to understand.
Of course, sir, we can do that.
Yes.
But, sir, will it be possible to do it in all the situations? If yes, well and good, go ahead. But my purpose here was to make everything accessible based on UDL principles, based on equity principles, based on principles of inclusion. Right? I can very easily give alternative activities and questions and alternative animals and alternative concepts, but will I be working on principles of inclusion, or will I be creating more exclusion? We have to think about that.
But thing is,
right,
ultimately the child should understand the concept, no, madam. Whatever
of
the principle
course.
it is, irrespective of principle, the ultimate principle is that we should reach the child.
Of course, sir, we have to reach this child.
Yeah.
But on the path towards reaching the child, if you are creating more exclusion, will it be okay? Is it acceptable? I just want to leave everyone with this question. As such, children with blindness are using braille books. As a teacher educator, I am not aware what content is available in their braille book. On what page? As a teacher, I am saying open page number 6. Will do. Start reading from paragraph that is in the middle. But that page number 6 in the Braille textbook might be page number 16 or 26. That paragraph may not be there on the same page. Who knows? So accessibility, of course, means reaching to the child, and we have to follow a road, follow the ways that are acceptable for everyone, and that creates parity instead of creating the feeling of exclusion. And I really appreciate everyone who has answered, who have attempted answering this. But I'll encourage everyone to open the school textbooks that are in use in your state and try developing audio description for the textbooks. That would be an interesting activity if you really want to do something. So, thank you. Vichitra, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
And for hearing, just last word, for hearing impaired students, yes, it would be better if we can use sign language. And if we do not know sign language, provide lesson end summaries and give them vocabulary help with the help of flashcards or other ICT based devices. Thank you so much. I'm muting myself now. Over to you, Vichitra.
Ma'am, namaste, ma'am.
Yes, participants, do you have any question?
Yes, ma'am. I have one question and one doubt.
Okay.
Sure.
Ma'am, what if the child looks normal in the beginning stages and later if it becomes disabled, ma'am?
So in that case also you have to focus on the learning needs. And if the hearing gets deteriorated over the years, then there are good chances the child has developed language at par with peers.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am, this hearing impairment and visual disabilities, I think if the teacher has a continuous contact with the child, he or she can identify that the child is not normal. But what about the other disability, learning disabilities like dyslexia? If the teacher, how would the teacher be able to identify such disabilities, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. That's a very interesting question. But a word of caution before I answer to this question. Please do not use the term normal. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
That's very disturbing to hear also. And as an SRG, we should not be using this term. You can say children without disabilities, typical children, atypical children, right?
Okay, ma'am.
And
sorry,
now,
because I used
no issues at all. No
in
issues.
the state board exam, we feel all the other children physical condition is normal. Like that only we feel, ma'am.
I understand. And ma'am, it's not you. I was also using these terminologies maybe few years back, but consciously I have learned not to use it.
I'll do
so
that.
there is always
Thanks.
a first
Thank
thing.
you.
So now coming back to identification. See, there are few characteristics that are dominant among these children and which are easy to observe in the school setting. Children with invisible disabilities like learning disabilities, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia, you will find lot of mistakes in their written work. You will find that you need to give lot of reminders to these children for following instructions. These children will request for lot of repetitions. You may find confusion between particular letters and words. So these are the telltale signs. And sometimes children will say, ma'am, we will not able to write properly, but we will be able to give you oral answers. And the reverse is also happen sometimes, because children with dysgraphia would be comfortable in verbal answers and instructions, whereas children with dyslexia would like to have instructions in written form. And for dyscalculia, if the child is only facing problem in mathematics, you will find language related work to be at average, but mathematics work lagging behind a lot. So these are the telltale behavioral symptoms that we can observe in the classroom setting.
Madam,
Thank you.
Madam,
Ji, sir. Yes, sir.
in public examinations, government is exempting for language papers. Is there any specific reason for these Divyang children for exempting language papers, but they have to write a non-language papers?
Of course, sir. And there are lot many exemptions given to Divyang children. Say, for example, half an hour extra to complete the paper. And CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education, has a long list of exemptions that are given to children with disabilities and Divyangata. And as far as language question is concerned, maximum of children with disabilities face problem in language acquisition and language expression. So instead of making them making it mandatory for them to answer or to appear or take examination for all the three languages, it would be better if we give them exemption from learning language. And we may see a day very soon where for children with hearing impairment or deafness, sign language would be one of the options. So we are moving gradually towards that day also. Thank you, sir, for this interesting question.
Thank you so much to all the participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to thank to Dr. Bharti ma'am for explaining us and making us aware about the types of disabilities and what are the things one should consider and keep in his or her mind while creating the e-content and making it accessible for the Divyang student. Thank you, ma'am. Now I request all the participants be in the meeting so that Dr. Angel ma'am would like to give some instruction to all the participants. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for this session, Dr. Bharti. And now we will be taking a break of next 15 minutes. The last session, we are not going to come back to the session. If anybody has any queries, you can stay back for any common queries. But otherwise, you are going to have a hands-on work. So we have made it as a little bit 3 hours. You have been sitting and continuously listening now. You will be doing an online course yourself, which expects around 1.5 hours time. And you will be submitting the certificate which you receive, a link of that in the assignment for the last session. So the course will be on open educational resources, and the course is offered by Commonwealth of Learning. And if anybody has already completed this course by yourself, you can just submit just upload that certificate in your folder and then submit the link. If you haven't submitted, you have to complete that course, and you can use your mobile, or you can use this. It's a very short course to understand OER. So you will be completing that course as part of the 4th session, and submit your assignment for that will be, you will be uploading your certificate in your drive and submit the link of the drive of your certificate. Any queries on this? I'll be sharing the link of the course now in the chat box. But if there is any other common queries? Any common queries?
Ma'am, please repeat.
Yeah, I have put a link in the chat box. If you access this link, you will get an access to a course. You can use your mobile or laptop. If you click on this link, you will get a course on OER, which is offered internationally by Commonwealth of Learning. The course content actually is like decided. It is on open educational resources, and it is on the licenses part, which you have studied on the first session. So this is an hands-on activity of that session. It is a self-learning course which requires 1.5 hours of your time to complete. But if you are spending more time in reading, you can take your time to read. At the end of the course, there will be an assessment inside the course where you have to get 80% marks to get the certificate. Until you read and do the course properly, you will not be able to get the certificate. So as part of this workshop, you have to complete this course and submit your certificate link in the course portal. Okay, in the assignment we have given. Yeah.
So how much it can take, madam, to complete this course?
Minimum is 1.5 hours. It maximum depends on individuals.
Yeah, till today evening or that
you can complete it before tomorrow morning.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Because today no other assignments, only this has to be completed.
Okay.
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 So all of you have to complete this course, and then if you are not reading, simply for skipping and going, you will not get 80% to pass. Until you will not get the certificate. The certificate is something after you complete the course, and you can download your certificate. You will get it in PDF form. You upload your certificate in your drive and submit the drive link. Okay.
Ma'am, will you repeat?
Are we to create new account, ma'am?
Madam, where it is?
Ma'am?
Yes, one by one, please.
Are we to create new account for that?
You can use your Gmail account also, sir.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Is it so? Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
And but it is showing that it is wrong account, wrong ID.
Wrong ID in the sense?
It's stating that your ID is not correct.
Register. First you must register, ma'am.
Ma'am, you have to first register yourself
Fine,
with your Gmail account.
Below the login, they have.
I'm sharing the screen and showing it. This is. Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, ma'am.
In this, first of all, you need to go and register yourself. You can see here, like you have to register with your IDs, right? They're asking you write the correct name. You have to get it in your certificate. Whatever you're writing here only will come in the certificate. Okay. So for example, I'm writing my name as this. You have to write your mail ID here. So you can write the mail ID, whichever is your mail ID. So for example, if this is my mail ID, type the correct mail ID. Anything is wrong, we cannot help it. So you type your right mail ID, select your age group. This is your password. Please give the right password. You can use the same password you have kept it for your now for the course, so that you don't forget. Okay. You have to give the password. It should be minimum 6 letters and it should have alphanumeric. Alphanumeric means it should have number as well as alphabets. And you have to create whatever suits you. In all this, whatever suits you can select and accept it. I accept has to be clicked. I am not a robot should be clicked, and then go to create an account. So the mail ID and the password will be used for you to log in again into this portal. So if you are not able to complete at a stretch, you are starting now at 3:45, first 4 pages you are completing. Then you wanted to take a break, you can close it, take a break. Again, you can log in with the same ID and password. Then you will continue from where you have left. But if you forget your name and password, you have to redo from first. We cannot change and help you. Okay. So kindly ensure that this is completed by. Yes. Any other question?
Excuse me, madam.
Yes, sir.
Madam, already 2 years back I got it, madam.
If you have completed already, then you have to just put your certificate for assignment. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Because we have shared it with many people. Some of you must have completed already.
Okay, madam.
Because just you have to revise the content, because tomorrow your final quiz will have questions from this module.
Okay, sure.
If you have forgotten, you have to just review yourself.
Hello, madam.
Yes, sir, ma'am.
How do we submit the link?
You will get a certificate from this course. Okay.
Yes.
After you complete, you can download the certificate from this portal. In your
Then?
drive, you have to upload your certificate and submit the link of the drive as usual, the way you submit. There will be
Madam, in ICT curriculum, we have to submit, madam. Is there any portfolio open, ma'am?
Yes, sir. For last session, it will be open. They are just opening it now. For the last session, today's session, it will be open. So there you will be submitting in the ICT curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, what is the deadline for submission?
Before tomorrow morning.
Okay, ma'am. Because my phone has some issues. I couldn't actually at times it's not working properly. I have to fix it. So I asked.
That's why we have given you full day. Like it's only 1.5 hours to 2 hours. We have given you full time whenever you want. That the time is before tomorrow morning.
Madam, I registered with the email ID. It does not open, madam.
Then there
Sorry,
is some
sir, for your kind appreciation, sir, you have to verify your mail, sir. They have sent you a mail.
Okay, sir.
Go and verify that.
The open with.
Sorry.
Sir, once you finish your registration, the mail ID you have given, no. Please open your mail ID. There will be a mail from this team, from this OER team, to verify yourself whether this mail ID is correct or not. Okay, there will be a link.
Okay. Ma'am, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, the portfolio 8 will be open, ma'am. Portfolio 8, ma'am. Actually, open source video, ma'am, editor, ma'am, takes times to export, ma'am. It takes more than 3 hours, ma'am, to export the video, and it was not functioning well in my computer laptop also, ma'am. That's the problem I faced yesterday.
Sir,
That's why
morning I
can't.
have given the instructions regarding this. I know that there are some people still not completed your assignments. Please complete and keep it ready in your system.
Yes, I have
We will
uploaded,
be
ma'am.
giving some grace period tomorrow. By the time you can just upload it.
And ma'am, the
Additional
video start and stop somewhere sometimes, ma'am, after editing. That's what the problem in my software or laptop. I don't know, ma'am.
You have installed in your Windows system, right, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So because of your operating system, this would have happened.
Okay, ma'am. That's why it was taking too long, ma'am. More than 3 hours, ma'am.
Yes, sir. That
Exporting.
would be a problem because of your system. Otherwise, it doesn't take.
Madam, shall we leave and continue the course, madam?
Yes, sir. Those who do not have questions can leave all the time, and then please come tomorrow by 9:30.
Madam, give the link again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Those who do not have any